Hi everyone. Today I'm going to reveal to you the dirty little secret of screenwriting, which is that pretty much every film you see is pretty much the same. And what I mean by that is that there's a structure to every kind of story, and the structure doesn't really ever change from film to film. But what changes is the way the story is told. This book, which I'm sure that I've recommended to you before, Save the Cat, is a brilliant book on screenwriting. And what the writer Blake Snyder describes is that to sell your script, the formula and the script in general should be the same but different. Okay, now what on earth does that mean? Well, what it means is that a lot of people, audiences particularly, see comfort in familiarity. So while the film may look different and it may feel different, ultimately the story is very, very similar, with perhaps a different ending or a different style of ending. So a cliffhanger, a happy ending, or a sad ending. Now, the example that I'm going to use is the film that I was working on at university before COVID-19 hit. It was called The Dark Sorcerer. And the summary is: The Dark Sorcerer is an independent fantasy action drama following the struggles of Hannah Brown, a sorceress bride, struck down and left for dead on her wedding day by her Catholic zealot and dark sorcerer father, Donovan Brown. Her wife to be murdered, she returns home 6 months later to seek revenge and bring her lost love back from the dead. Now, what's interesting about this film is it's actually a social realism, and essentially the plot is that of what might be seen in something along the lines of perhaps a soap opera like EastEnders or Coronation Street, but the only thing that's really changes is the way the story is told and the kind of universe that it's in. So it's in a universe that includes magic and a fantasy and that kind of thing. But ultimately, the main conflict of the film is between the father of the lesbian protagonist, who doesn't agree with his daughter's lesbianism because he's very much Old Testament, which is something you could very well see in something like EastEnders, Coronation Street, or a drama film. But what's changed is the way the story is told. And the film and the script is really good and really interesting because of it. It's a really it was sold to me to get me on board, and ultimately, the film seems very, very unique, despite the fact that the ultimate the story itself has perhaps been told before, just in a very a very different way. So that's how you can make your screenplays seem very unique. Okay, so think of a film that you really like that has a specific conflict and a specific storyline, and see how you could tell that story in perhaps a more uh, unique, or perhaps even less unique, more realistic way. And that is how you will sell your scripts. So that's the dirty little secret of writing a script. Now, if the best thing to do if you're struggling to think of an idea, this doesn't specifically apply to the screenwriting contest in specifically, but if you want to write a script and you're struggling to come up with ideas, think of 3 unique elements. So a location, a character, and an object. Combine those 3 and think of a way to tie them together into a film. And while it probably won't work the first time, now this is a trick I got from university. If you keep doing that for a while, you'll likely come up with a really interesting kind of film that fits right into the ideals of the people who commission films. So if you're ever struggling to come up with an idea, just do that. And I really do recommend, because I didn't learn all this information, through trial and error. I learned it from university, my script writing lessons, and ultimately this book saved the cat. The last book on screenwriting you'll ever need. Well, it's very true. I've never needed I've never felt the need to read another one before. So if there's one screenwriting book that you read in your lifetime, I do recommend this one, because it is a really good way of not only how to sell a script, but how to write a script with the best chance of being commissioned. Okay, so if you've got an idea, and so see if it does fit into this category, see if it does, if it can be told in this way before. Of course, not all films are told like this. Some are just born from really unique aspects, really unique minds, and they work. And they work still. And oftentimes the best films, though, they still come from this book. And even non-linear narratives. Off the top of my head, I can think of Deadpool. That's not told in a linear narrative. And a really good horror film called Oculus as well, which is a really interesting way of telling its story. It's a 15, so if your parents let you watch it, then I do recommend that one for this week. Oculus, horror film by Mike Flanagan, and it's chances are all these films that have those really unique storytelling, they still originated from this concept of the same but different, but they just kind of reordered the story to tell it in a really much more in-depth and extraordinary way. Okay, so the next tip I'm going to give you on Thursday isn't going to be on the contest specifically. It's actually going to be on filmmaking in general. And the reason I want to tell you a little bit about that is because there's a lot of things that are sort of pre-expected going in when you first enter a film set that might not necessarily be the case, which can be a little bit daunting. So on Thursday, which is the last day that you can send over your scripts for me to have a look at, that I will give a little bit of tips on filmmaking in general. So directing, how to organise yourselves, on-set etiquette and ethics, and all that kind of stuff. Because you won't of course have the chance to put any screenwriting tips I give you into the script anymore, because it's the last day. So I'll give you a little bit of tips on filmmaking in general, which will hopefully rev some of you up if you're interested in the September launching film class that Propbox are doing. Okay, so thank you for watching these tips, and do stay safe, everyone. I really look forward to reading them.